Hello everyone, my name is Gus, and today I will be reviewing the Shearwater Swift Transmitters. These transmitters work with Shearwater computers that are air integrated, and I will be putting these transmitters against some of the other transmitters out in the market. As of now, you still can find the classic or legacy or previous generation Shearwater transmitter, which are these two right here, the yellow one and the gray one. And also I have an aqua lung transmitter that is compatible with the same standard that these other transmitters use for communication. Now, Shearwater sent me these two transmitters for me to test, but they know that I will be giving you 100% honesty on my review. They don't expect a good review. They expect an honest review. So that's why they sent it to me. So I will be putting these to the test. I have a bunch of tanks here in the office, in the studio, and I will be testing them against these other transmitters that I've been using for a while. You can see this Aqualung one has been like to a few deployments I wore and back. I mean, it's been all over the place in caves and stuff. And specifically, the Shearwater manual says, we can't guarantee reliability with third-party transmitters out there. We can only guarantee reliability with Shearwater transmitters. But, this wouldn't be a Dive Talk review if I didn't try it with a third-party transmitter. And not only that, these transmitters, the advantage of the Swift transmitters, and I'll talk a little bit about, what makes these so great, is that, now you can have up to 4 tanks or 4 cylinders, 4 transmitters reporting to one single air integrated computer, as long as you upgraded that computer to the latest firmware. And that is one thing that I want to make sure you guys understand, is that there's 2 sides to using this technology. Not only you have to have the new transmitters, but also you have to have your computer upgraded to the latest firmware. And obviously, depending on when you're watching this video, I'm recording this in August of 2021. Maybe by the time you're watching this, there's been several firmwares that have been released by then. But, as of now, just buying the new Swift transmitters doesn't allow you to have 4 cylinders reporting to the same computer. You have to also upgrade the firmware on the computer. Now, the beauty of it is that you don't have to have 4 Swift transmitters to leverage 4 transmitters at the same time. Shearwater made it so they are compatible with the previous generation transmitters. So in my case, I will be testing 2 of the new transmitters, the Swift ones, with the previous ones, with the previous version ones. So I want to see how they work together with the old version, so I don't have to get rid of the old ones and buy all new ones just because I want to use more than 2 tanks at the same time, or I want to keep my eye on the air pressure for more than 2 cylinders at the same time. Now, some people may wonder, why would you need to keep air pressure, or to keep an eye on air pressure for more than 2 cylinders? And the answer is, in some cases, depending on the kinds of dives that you're doing, you may want to keep an eye on air pressure for more than 2 tanks. If you're doing a super deep dive that is open circuit, chances are that you're going to have more than 2 tanks, and you want to keep an eye on that. Now, in some cases, you will be diving doubles, for example, that are connected by a manifold, and that is kind of like a single air pressure for 2 tanks. But if you're diving side mount, you have separate air pressure. So in some cases, you will have more than 2 tanks, and each one of them with individual air pressure. So that is the whole point of having the ability, to being able to monitor more than 2. Now, there's the other approach that people say, well, if I'm an instructor, maybe I want to be able to keep my eye on, my students' air pressure, or, if I dive with my wife or my kids, my family, I want to be able to keep my eye on their pressure as well. And that's not really realistic. One thing that you will find with these transmitters, and these are not just the Shearwater transmitters that do this, anyone in this standard of transmission of signals for the air pressure, is that they only work up to about 6 feet or 2 meters. So unless you're all going to be diving, holding hands, or basically embracing each other, that's just not going to work. You're not going to be able to report the air pressure in other people. That's just not realistic. But, for me, I dive rebreathers. With my rebreathers, when I'm doing cave diving, I have not only my oxygen tank on the rebreather, but I have I have bailouts. I have more than 2 tanks that I can keep my eye on air pressure for. So it is very, very useful to have the ability to use more than 2. You don't have to use them all the time, but it's really good to have the ability to do that. And, not only the software was limiting us from doing that on the computer, but also the transmitters were not able to do that. And that's why, the classic transmitters, we had a gray one and a yellow one because they were kind of conflicting on the way they reported the information. The new Swift transmitters actually have collision detection. They can sense when other transmitters are reporting information and report it at different times. By default, these transmitters report information every 5 seconds, right? About every 5 seconds. So the gray and the yellow one have different transmission schedules, so they don't collision, they don't have a collision with each other when reporting. But the Swift transmitters actually have a variable reportability, which is between 4.8 and 5.2 seconds. So they can detect when other transmitters are reporting and only report when there's nothing, essentially going through, so the message can get across. That is the whole idea behind it. That's why you can have up to 4, because imagine, 4 transmitters reporting at the same time. They get on the same schedule. They can talk to each other and basically make sure that they don't collide when transmitting the information to the computer. Now, I'm not going to go super technical when it comes to dimensions. You can see them on the screen right now. They're about the same size. So if you're comparing, the old with the new one, I mean, yeah, maybe like in terms of like size to like micron level, like you might find a difference, but honestly, they feel very much the same. Like same weight, same length, same everything. So it's about the same thing. But the Swift transmitters have some advantages. Number one, the classic transmitter were all round, as you can see. So it's not very hard to be able to install them without a tool. You have to basically get a tool, a wrench, to install them in the tank or to remove them from the tank. You don't want to basically torque them on the actual transmitter itself. The Swift transmitters are not like that. They have grooves, as you can see. And one of the things that the Shearwater promotes is that now you don't need a tool. Now you can still use it. I mean, you can still fit a wrench in there, but it has to be a very thin one. But you can also use those grooves, as you can see, to fit your hand in it and use your hand to remove them, which is pretty cool. Also, these transmitters have a LED that will report information based on battery levels, based on whether there's collision, based on other things. So there's a lot of information. And to be honest, I was kind of concerned because, as you can see, the old one, the classic one, doesn't have anything. You can just remove the cap to change the battery. They both use the same battery, by the way. It's a CR2 battery. Let me see if I have one right here to show you. Yeah, I have one right here. So it looks like that. It's a tiny battery. It goes in there. Okay, they are both the same battery. They both use the same one. They can both be changed. But the old one doesn't have that LED, and I was kind of concerned that the battery was going to last less on the new ones because of the LED, because it's constantly kind of flashing green to let you know that everything is okay. But they're actually both rated to 300 hours of diving. And the way it works is the transmitter goes on immediately as soon as it hits 100 psi or more. So if it senses 100 psi on the line, on the high pressure port, then it goes on. And I think that's 7 bar, something like that. So if it senses that, it goes on, and it will last for 300 hours. So even though it has a LED that blinks, the battery lasts the same. I have no idea how they did that, but at least that's what it's rated for. The old transmitters, both the yellow and the gray one right here, they're both rated to 500 feet or 152 meters. And the new one is actually rated even deeper. This new Swift transmitter is actually rated to 200 meters. So from 150 on these to 200 on these, or 656 feet. Now, not a whole lot of people dive beyond 150 meters, but if you do and you were concerned that maybe your transmitters were not going to make it, then the Swift transmitters can go down to 200, which is, a lot more. So that's pretty good. One thing that they didn't advertise, to be honest, Shearwater, and for me, I think is a major plus, and they should put it in all their advertisement, is how much easier it is to add these guys to computers. If you've ever added Shearwater transmitters or any other transmitters to a computer, you know how hard it is to read these numbers. Like, look, I'm putting it super close, and obviously the camera's not focusing very great, But you can see like these, and there's so many numbers too. It's like, what numbers am I adding? Like, is it these or those? It's just hard. And on the yellow one is even worse because it's like the ink is gray, and on the yellow it's not the greatest. So I kind of read these, but like this sticker goes away. Like this is like my third yellow transmitter. Because I cave dive and I damage them. Over the years I've gotten new ones, and this sticker goes away. Like in every one that I've had, it rips off, and then once it goes away, you're left with the gray on yellow thing, and it's just so hard to read. Check these out, the Swift, huge. Look at those numbers. Love it. That's so awesome. They did great with that. So those are the numbers you need to add them to your computer, and that's it. You don't, why didn't they do that on the old ones? I guess, well, that's a good learning point. So yeah, the old ones have super difficult to read numbers to pair them with your computer. New ones, super big, nailed it. I don't know why they don't advertise that. That's probably my favorite feature, to be honest, on the new transmitters, because because I need to pair them and unpair them, constantly. So I like that. And again, this is an Aqualung transmitter that I will be testing as well. All of them at the same time. We'll see how it works, and we'll see how it goes. But anyway, like I said, they're about the same size. The price of it, as of now, is pretty close. I think the classic or the old transmitters are $350 right now, and the new ones, the Swift transmitters, are $395. So they're a little bit more, but obviously it comes with the other advantages that I just mentioned. The fact that you don't need a tool to remove them. That has a LED indicating your battery left, which is still 300 hours. The fact that you can... it goes deeper, 200 meters, rated to 200 meters, and how easy it is to read that serial when it comes to pairing it to a computer. I mean, I love that. And the fact that you can have up to 4. I mean, that obviously is huge. The classic ones, you can only have 2 of them, but the other, these guys can work with up to 4 at the same time. So all of those are way worth the $45. But before I go any further, I haven't tested these. I actually, as you can see, I haven't even removed the blue cap that comes at the end. I just opened it up. They came in this little package right here. I just took them out of the package just to show you. I'm going to put them on the tanks and open all of them up, and we're going to test it. I have a Perdix AI. I already set it up with 4 of them, and then I have my Tarek, which has another one of them. I just want to have all 5 of them reporting at the same time to see what happens. Like, are they going to crash? Are they going to report like no problem? They're all going to be close together in close vicinity. So we'll see how it goes. So let me install all this stuff in tanks, and we'll be right back. Now that all 5 transmitters have been installed and reporting air pressure, let's see how it actually looks on a computer. So here you can see I have my Perdix AI on the right hand side. This is the computer I use when I'm diving the rebreather. And the way I have it configured is I have it configured like when I'm doing cave diving, for example. So here on the left, you see my oxygen tank is reporting about 2000 PSI of pressure. And you can see I have my 2 bailout tanks right here on the right. So because I have all 5 tanks reporting, I've noticed that sometimes it blinks with no comms. But after a few seconds, like about 10 seconds or so, it goes ahead and corrects itself. I noticed that you can see that now it's reporting again. It's kind of odd. I think it's because of the fact that 5 of them are reporting at the same time, which again on the manual, Shearwater says don't do that. But I went ahead and did it anyway, for science. So anyway, bailout number 1 has 1886, reporting 1886, and bailout number 2 is 3502. So I have all the 3 pressures on my screen at the same time. Now, if I click a couple times on the right, I actually added a 4th one in there, which is tank number 4. So you can see it now right here on the bottom, 2686. That is yet another tank. So I'm reporting 4 tank pressures, 1998 from O2. Bailout number 1 is 1886. Bailout number 2 is 3502. And tank number 4, I haven't labeled that one, 2686. Oh yeah, and by the way, now we can label our tanks, which is something that I've been wanting forever, which is, again, yet another thing that Shearwater is not promoting out there. They are not including this on their marketing, and I feel like a lot of people will love that. This is probably my second most favorite feature of the new firmware upgrade, the fact that I can actually now label them like O2, bailout 1, bailout 2, stuff like that. So that's cool. So the 4th one is just tank 4. I didn't use a label on that one, but I wanted you to see all 4 at the same time reporting with no collisions, even though there's actually 5. And you can see right here on my Taric, if I go to the right, 2372 is the pressure on tank number 1, which is the 5th 2370 now. The 5th transmitter that I have reporting. So 5 are reporting at the same time and no collision detected at all. Again, once in a while, I notice that one of them goes into no comms for about 5 to 10 seconds, and then it goes back into reporting. Very, very impressed. I would be obviously way more impressed if there were no collisions at all, but the fact that this is certified to allow 4 of them, the fact that it's working with 5, one of them being a non-Shearwater transmitter, is an actually Aqualung transmitter. So, and for them to all be working and reporting at the same time, it's amazing. So let me let some air out of some of these. Just, let's just let some air out on them and see if the numbers actually go down. Once again, these report in about 5-second intervals or so, and I can see the lights flashing. It's off the camera, so you can see it. I didn't want to open this up because the floor is full of tanks, but you can see the pressures going down as well. This one went down to 2660. It was a little bit higher. Tank number 4, which is right here next to me, and 3504 bailout number 2 went down there. So they are reporting within about 5 seconds, and once again, once in a while you do see them lose comm, but I don't know how long we've been now, and 2 or 3 minutes in a row, and the communications have been on point. This one right here, the Taric, I haven't seen this one drop at all, and it's actually the tank that is the furthest from me, the cylinder that is the furthest from me, and it's just working flawlessly. I don't know if it's because he doesn't have to read from the other ones. You see it right now, the bailout number 1 is flashing, so it went for like 3 or 4 minutes without having any issues. Let's see if it takes, how long it takes for it to do that. Obviously, if I remove 2 of the tanks and I just dive with 3 with my O2, and you see it just came back on with O2, bailout 1 and bailout 2, I probably will never see a collision like that. And again, my O2, just for full disclosure, the O2 is actually the Aqualung. So this computer has 4 of them. One is an Aqualung. Bailout number 1 is actually a yellow, old school, legacy Shearwater transmitter. Bailout number 2 is a Swift. Tank number 4 is a Swift. So once again, Aqualung is O2. B1 or bailout 1 is yellow. Bailout number 2 is Swift. Tank number 4 is Swift. So I have all of them working at the same time. I wanted to create as much confusion as possible for my Shearwater Perdix right here, and as you can see, is working pretty much flawlessly. And this is why I dive Shearwater, and this is why I will now dive Swift transmitters going forward. This thing is awesome. 100% recommend them. They're great. Now, the question is, if you have already purchased transmitters like the classic transmitters, should you go and upgrade to the Swift transmitters? I think the answer is no. You should not go and upgrade unless you need more transmitters. If you were diving, for example, side mount, and you are carrying 2 tanks and you have just the classic transmitters, the gray and the yellow, and that suffices for you because all you're doing is diving with 2 of them, then you're good. You don't need to add more complexity or anything like that. You don't need to go and upgrade them to Swift. If you're planning on going deeper and you're going to be bringing deco gases and things like that, and you're going to be adding more, then I would definitely consider adding some Swift transmitters so you can now, keep track of all your tank pressure, at the same time in one computer. So definitely add them. If you're, a new diver and you're buying a brand new Perdix or a Terric or a Nerd 2 or whatever air integrated computer is out there from Shearwater, and you're thinking about buying a transmitter, even if you don't need the features of Swift. For example, you say, look, I'm a new diver. I'm never going to go down past 150 meters. Like, I'm not even near that, not even more than 40 meters. I'm never going to dive with more than 1 tank. I'm never, like, all of the benefits of having a Swift transmitter are out the window. Buy a Swift transmitter. I mean, it is clear if you go to the Shearwater website right now, you can't even see information for the classic transmitters. They're moving forward with the Swift transmitters as the transmitters for Shearwater computers. So just spend the few extra dollars to get the new transmitters, the Swift transmitters, and move on with those. That is my recommendation. If you're buying, from scratch, brand new, get them. If you need to add to your capabilities, get them for sure. But if you already have them and you don't need to expand them, I don't think there's a need for it. Unless, again, you absolutely need those capabilities. Like, you need more tanks, you need to dive deeper. For example, you're gonna, you want to dive deeper than 150 meters and you want to make sure your transmitters work, something like that, then yeah, go ahead and buy the Swift transmitters. But I mean, just upgrade them for the sake of upgrading them. No, I think the classic, the legacy transmitters still work well. I will continue to use mine. So I don't think you need to upgrade them. Honestly, that's my honest opinion. I think that, Shearwater did a great job with the new transmitters. Can't wait to use mine. As you can see, very, very excited about the fact that even though I have 5 of them at the same time, I couldn't get them to break really for a significant amount of time. Like, I can spend 10 seconds without getting one of my 4 or 5 tanks reporting. That's okay. 10 seconds later, come back and tell me what my air pressure is. That's not a big deal. So I think this is a home run. I think they did a great job. And I hope this review was useful to you as you consider buying a Shearwater computer or a transmitter or a combination. They're great. Give it a shot. And we'll see you on the next one.